How successful will Coinbase NFT release and FTX US NFT release be? So first I'm going to tell you a few things that you already know, and then a few things that you probably don't know, but that are important. So there's over 2 million as of yesterday. I was 2 million and something. People that have already registered for Coinbase NFT waiting list. And when you consider that OpenSea only has, I think, 300,000 or 400,000 members, that's like a 10x of people. Now, some of those people might be the same, so it might be like a 9x. The same people that already have OpenSea accounts. But that's just after a few days. Figure that maybe 5 or 10 million people, perhaps, sign up for Coinbase NFT, then you're starting to get into crossing the chasm type things. You're starting to go from the real early adopters to, like, technologies go through the S curve, that incredible exponential growth when they get between like 15 and 20% adoption. And America has like 300 and something million people, so 15% would be like maybe between 20 and 30 million people, somewhere in that vicinity. Actually, no, I take it back. 30 million times 10 is 30 million, so it'd be like about 45 to 60 million people. But it's quite conceivable that if 5 or 10 people sign up before the launch, 5 or 10 million, getting to 45 million, if things go well, could happen in potentially with the exponential growth, maybe 12 months. It might take 5 years, it might take 6 months, but I would say 1 to 2 years is a reasonable exponential type prediction. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was faster. So say a year or two from now, and that's just Coinbase. I'm going to get to FTX in a minute. Say a year or two from now, 50 to 75 million people, 50 to 60 million people say, are trading NFTs or own NFTs or have at least accounts for NFTs. That's when you start to get in the S curve. So once you get to 50 million, the 50 million is hard, but 50 to 100 million is easy because the slope of the S curve is like, if it takes 2 years to get to 50 million, it might only take 3 months to get to 100 million. Just kind of like everybody has a Facebook account. At the beginning it was slow, but then, at a certain point, everybody has one. There's obviously a few laggards that don't have Facebook accounts. There's some people that don't even have internet access, but not too many. So NFTs are going to be used in Coinbase. I don't know how many users they have, but they have a lot. So the fact that Coinbase will allow, their users to easily entry into NFTs is going to be huge. Now, in terms of the on-ramp and the blockchain, I want to compare and contrast a little bit with FTX, because I think FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, 29, is the world's richest person, I think under 30 years old. He's worth, according to Forbes, last time I saw, something like $22.5 billion. If you look at any NFT projects, and if you listen to Sam Bankman-Fried's interviews, there's just something in his mind that he understands, like market strategy, marketing. Like even today when I signed up for FTX US, so I could learn about these NFTs. Even the sign up pages, they're spoken like a real human being. It's not like legalese. And even like the buy now buttons say like I'm in or something like that. It's like every little nuance is kind of like optimized, and his whole life is optimized. And I think one thing that's going to help FTX potentially in the long run, and by long run I'm saying 3 years, which is actually just medium term perhaps, that I think FTX NFTs and including FTX US. I'm not sure if the global FTX is going to do NFTs also. I would assume so, because I'm sure people in other countries want to buy NFTs also. Are two things. One is I think the FTX brand, like FTX, they bought LedgerX, so they're going to be really big in derivatives. I'm not sure exactly how LedgerX works, but I know they're a leader. And they have relationships with Major League Baseball. They have relationships with Tom Brady, with Kevin O'Leary, the Shark Tank. They have naming rights to Miami Heat Stadium. So they bought, I think one of the top esports teams in the world. I'm not sure how much it was. I think like maybe $30 million, maybe 300. I forget exactly what the factor is, but it was significant. So Sam Bankman-Fried has his pulse in his finger. Totally, he only started, I think, don't quote me, I think Alameda Research was started maybe somewhere around 2018, and FTX somewhere around 2019. So like 2-3 years, 4 years at the outset, he's giving, starting to give Coinbase and Binance, a definite run for their money as, the top crypto, exchange or entity, whatever you want to say, in the world. I think Binance, for what I heard, has maybe like 10x, don't quote me, but, more users than FTX. But I think FTX users go in much higher volume in much larger amounts. So FTX is a brand and as a, place to use is like really, got a full head of steam behind it. The other thing that I think is going to help FTX, which I think in 3 years, FTX US may be bigger than Coinbase in NFTs, maybe even faster, maybe even in a year, for two main reasons. One, but I think, success brings imitators, so anything that's successful, other companies try to do as well. The first thing is that FTX is very highly integrated with Solana. Like they have Serum, and Solana has so many advantages over Ethereum in that, there's no gas fees. It's essentially free on Solana. It's lightning fast. They did have an outage, but just because so many people were using it. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think they're capable of doing I don't know the exact magnitude, perhaps tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of transactions a second. Maybe it's a minute. I think it's a second. I think their roadmap is to scale up to millions. So, I think they're either they're faster than Visa now or many times faster or, somewhere in that vicinity and have the capability of increasing that substantially. So when you have almost free, network, because Solana has basically no fees, almost no fees, and then you have the lightning speed, then I think Solana will probably overtake Ethereum. But, and this is a huge qualification, Ethereum has the network effects. Like everybody goes to Facebook or TikTok or eBay or Amazon because they have the network effects. Everybody else is there that you want to talk to or the products that you want to buy. So Ethereum has the network effects because it's, the first 800-pound gorilla. So it's going to be hard for Solana to compete with them. Like they say that to beat an incumbent, you have to be not 2 times better, you have to be 10 times better because there's something called switching costs. Like people don't want to change phone carriers. They don't want to change, cell phone carriers. They don't want to change anything that involves effort to unsign up from one thing and sign up for something else. And the companies know that, so sometimes they make switching difficult. But so the switching costs from Ethereum to Solana, it's not only switching costs, but it's also mind share. Like people psychologically, once they get used to using a system, even if another system is better, they're probably not going to switch until all their friends tell them it's better, because social proof is very important. Like if they just read in the newspaper, if they just read, online news or broadcast or whatever that's better, they'll be like, yeah, it's better, but I have 100 other things I have to do first. I'll do it when I finally get around to it, unless it's their major occupation or something that they need to do right away. So most people will put it off till later. But, if they start seeing everyone around them, oh, my best friend is doing it, my spouse is doing it, my kids are doing it, they're like, yeah, why am I so far behind? Everybody else is doing it. Even FTX in their marketing, they're so brilliant. Like one thing I saw right on their homepage, I think it was, of US is Tom Brady is in, are you? It's that whole social proof. If a lot of people are going to think, especially sports fans, if it's good enough for Tom Brady, who I think has won something like 7 Super Bowls, I think he's 7 for 10, don't quote me, then yeah, if it's good enough for Tom Brady, it's probably good enough for me. So, summary in a nutshell. Both of these, I predict, are going to be wildly successful. Don't quote me. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Do your own. I say that, as a general disclaimer, but then, now again at this time. So not financial advice, but I think both of them are going to be wildly successful. I think it's going to be a race to see which is more successful over the 2 to 4 year time frame. Now, obviously, OpenSea is the leader, but Coinbase already has 10 times the registrants on the wait list. So it's interesting because OpenSea is funded early on, I believe, by Andreessen Horowitz, and Andreessen Horowitz is also a big early backer in Coinbase. Now, maybe Andreessen Horowitz is cashed out of Coinbase. I don't know because Coinbase is public now. But if they still own a large stake in Coinbase, and I mean, I think again, don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I think Brian Armstrong, the CEO, became a billionaire after the IPO. I'm not positive, and I think he actually was probably maybe out-earned by Mark Andreessen on that. So it's interesting if the VCs make more than the CEO on the IPO. But I think Mark Andreessen and his firm, Andreessen Horowitz, may have made a few $1 billion. Like I kind of remember reading that, but I'm not positive, which is a huge sum of money to make on one company. I don't know what the return on it was, many times X. But the main point is that if Andreessen still owns Coinbase, which I don't know if they do or if they sold it, then it would be interesting to see the play between them being an investor in both OpenSea and Coinbase, given that those are probably going to be competitors. It's possible that Coinbase will just blow OpenSea out of the water. Like OpenSea, I think their last funding round was $100 and something million, so I'm sure they have some resources, but Coinbase is much bigger. They're a public company, and it's possible that if Coinbase becomes wildly successful and they have 10 or 50 times the registrants right out of the bat, OpenSea might just have to fold in 3 months. I know that sounds like kind of a bold prediction, but I don't think that will necessarily happen, but I think it's one of the potential outcomes. I think that Coinbase could just be so powerful, and I think Coinbase is not going to be able to blow away FTX because FTX is a major force. But I think Coinbase and FTX are going to duke it out, and then OpenSea, then the other one's Nifty Gateway, which I think is owned by the Winklevoss twins, if I'm correct, and Rarible. Those three, like I think OpenSea has an advantage right now in user adoption as the market leader, if I'm correct, over Rarible and Nifty Gateway, I believe, are like the two other ones that I'm most familiar with as the largest. All three of them, I think, 6 to 12 months from now, potentially are going to be hard to survive. Like you can't, like a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we have 50 million users, then yeah, probably some of them will go to Nifty Gateway and some of them will go to, but not necessarily. Most fields after a period of time get into like consolidation. Like we have one major, search engine in the United States, which is Google. I mean, we have Bing and others, but Google predominates. We have one major e-commerce company. I think Amazon has like 50%, 40 something percent, or 50% market share. We have one major search engine. I mean, obviously, we have TikTok and a few others. Not TikTok, that's what you eat, but TikTok. So it's going to be interesting, the dynamics. I mean, I think likely Coinbase and FTX will be very powerful. I mean, it's possible they'll flop, but I don't see that. Anything is possible, but it's going to be interesting. I think the real question is, are companies like OpenSea, Rarible, and Nifty Gateway, are there going to be enough customers for them to either survive or flourish, or will they go under?